So while I was in high school, I took PE as a freshman, and most of the other kids in the class were also freshmen, but there were a few people in the grades above us, and they would always be dunking on us and all of that, but that's just how it was, and we just kind of accepted it. And it was just your normal PE class, nothing super interesting really ever happened. And that was supposed to be the last year that I took PE, but it wasn't because of some shenanigans that happened with the school when they were putting together everybody's schedules. So basically, every year they had a day before the year started where everyone stands in line to get their schedule and basically just get situated for the coming year. So for my senior year, I had already gotten most all my credits, so I signed up for some nice and easy classes, So I'm standing there in line thinking about the easy year that I'm about to have, but then this lady, she hands me my schedule and I'm reading over it, and I noticed a class on there that I don't remember signing up for. It was called something like creative essay writing or something crazy like that. It just sounded like something I did not want to be a part of. And then I look at the teacher for that class, and it's the same teacher I had for English a couple years ago. Now, I'm not trying to slander this teacher or anything. She was actually a really nice person, but she would give these quizzes. Believe me when I tell you, these were not easy quizzes. They weren't even difficult quizzes. They were actually impossible quizzes. You know how you'll get a quiz and skip a question if you didn't know the answer? I would do that, and before I knew it, I'd gone through the whole thing and my paper is still 100% blank. That's how it was every other week whenever we had a quiz, and I was not trying to have to go through that experience all over again. So I see this class on my schedule and immediately go into full panic mode. I gotta get out of this class. So I call the lady in charge of the schedules to find out what the deal is. I'm like, why am I in this class? What's going on? And apparently the class I had actually signed up for didn't get enough people to sign up, so they had to get rid of it and just threw me in this writing class instead. I'm like, please, anything except this class. And she says I can go to PE if I want. I'm a pretty competitive guy. I enjoy PE. It was fun when I had it before, so I had no problem with that. I said, sign me up. And then I remember my friend had also signed up for that exact same class. I guess he got put in the same writing class as me, had the same reaction I did, and the lady transferred him to the same PE class. And that's when I realized, wait a minute, we're gonna be in there with a bunch of freshmen. They're like half the size of us. My friend was like this 6'3" really tall guy who can nearly dunk. I'm thinking like, I don't think the lady that put us in this class knew the problem that she just caused for all these freshmen. But the exact same thing happened to me the first time I took PE, so that's just the circle of life, I guess. So now I'm super hyped for this PE class. I'm ready to dominate and go undefeated in gym class. Nothing too extreme, just all in good fun. It'll be good for them to experience constant defeat anyways. It builds character. Little did I know, these plans would eventually get thrown out the window. But it started out like I thought it would. So the first unit we did was basketball. My friend and I would end up on the same team. He's jumping up to the rim. We could pass the ball freely back and forth. Any rebounds, forget about it. I remember this one game, the score was actually like 20-0 after like 3 minutes. But we weren't monsters, we didn't want to make it a miserable experience, so we would chill out and lay off when we needed to. So the teacher starts to notice things are a little unbalanced here and decides to step in and take action against this. And like I said, we would lay off when we needed to, but apparently that wasn't enough in the teacher's eyes, so she banned us from being on the same team for the rest of the basketball unit. So I'm like, whatever, we'll just wait it out until we start the next unit. It comes time for football. You could probably already guess what's about to happen. We're throwing Hail Mary passes all day long, and there would always be a few different games going on at once. So one day the teacher comes over to watch our game. We had just thrown like the 5th Hail Mary pass in a row, and it took like 10 minutes for her to ban us from football too. Then it looked like she was thinking about it, like she might reconsider. She goes, actually, I'm like, oh, she's still gonna let us have our fun. And she goes, no, actually, I'm gonna ban you in every sport for the rest of the year. From here on out, I'm requiring you guys to be on opposite teams. I'm like, what? And then she stuck by that rule too. Whenever we picked teams, if we ever ended up together, she would put a stop to it immediately. So I was kind of bummed out about it, and plus these freshmen are going to get too comfortable facing no challenges and start thinking life is all about sunshine and rainbows. So I'm trying to think of a loophole to her rule, and then I realized we would often have a substitute in that class, and it always seemed like there was 2 types of substitute teachers in gym class. There were the ones where you would think their real job is like some type of army drill sergeant. They're like, oh, you normally do 10 push-ups? Well, today we're going to do 10,000 push-ups, and if anyone takes a break, the whole class is going to start over. And then the other kind was the ones that just didn't care at all. When we picked teams and the real teacher was there, she would make sure each captain took equal turns and everything was done correctly. But then you get one of these substitutes that just lets the students handle it all, and the team picking process will be absolute chaos. Kids are fighting over players, the team sizes are all disproportionate, and my friend and I, we would always end up being on the same team. And it would be back to this again. So there was this one day we had this one substitute and we were playing football, and he was pretty invested in watching how the games were going. So he's watching our game. I had just tossed the ball down the entire field to my friend or something like that, and this guy notices and starts trying to intervene to make things more fair. At first he just kind of joined the other side as a player and tried to help them out, but then he took it up a step and decided to play referee also. And basically the way his player and referee position worked was every time we scored, he would just come up with some rule we violated, assign us some random penalty, and get rid of our points. He even started calling penalties on us that don't even make any sense. I'd start the play for 2 seconds, and then he'd bust into referee mode, blow his whistle, and be like, "Hey, you double dribbled, that's a loss of all 4 downs, and now it's my ball."
What?
When we got to the end of the game, he just kind of made up some penalty that doesn't even exist, and just straight up assigned free points to his team. He was an interesting character for sure. One particular day after we had a substitute teacher, one of the freshmen, unprovoked, just ratted us out and was like, "Coach, yesterday the seniors were both on the same team." So then the teacher started writing notes to the subs, "Make sure the seniors are on opposite teams." And I knew this because you ever have one of those substitutes that reads their directions word for word out loud to the entire class? They would be reading us the instructions the coach left for them, and then at the end they would squint and be like, "It looks like there's a handwritten note here at the bottom. What does that say? Make sure the 2 seniors are not on the same team." I really didn't understand it because we would always make sure to not take it too far. But it was what it was, and it was fine really. But by the coach making such a big deal about us not being on the same team, she created this seniors versus freshmen mentality. And that mentality became a problem for us whenever we played a game that had no teams. For example, we would play free-for-all dodgeball where it was every man for himself, but then every man for himself just turned out to be 2 seniors versus 40 freshmen, and we would be screwed. But there were even some team sports where it didn't matter if we were on the same team because we were just not good at them. When we started playing volleyball, it was over for us. It seemed like every time I tried to hit the ball, it would be coming towards me. I try to line it up, get into position, and then tap it ever so lightly, and then it would go flying off in the opposite direction I wanted it to. Both of us would be hitting lights all the way up on the ceiling. It was obvious we sucked, and she still wouldn't let us play on the same team. I was like, "You see we're both garbage, you gotta at least make an exception for this sport." Meanwhile, all the volleyball players are ganging up and serving perfect 1,000-mile-an-hour serves. I'm feeling like my head is about to get taken off, and they never got broken up. On a side note, one day in that class we were playing volleyball and the teacher had to go to the bathroom, so she told us to stop playing and don't touch any equipment while she leaves. As soon as she leaves, a bunch of people take the volleyball and start trying to make a basket into the hoops that weren't being used. And when the hoops weren't being used, they would lift them all the way up to the ceiling. So instead of it being a 10-foot rim, now it was a 40-foot rim. So everyone was just trying to make a basket all the way up there, and I actually ended up making the volleyball into the hoop, but since the hoop was up, it was angled and the ball just kind of got stuck up there. And then I start remembering how strict this teacher was about not touching the equipment while she was gone. Really strict. She would lower your grade and kick you out of class and everything because of it. Of course, as soon as I got it stuck, everyone else immediately ran away from the scene, leaving me just standing there. So I start panicking. I gotta find a way to get this ball down before she comes back from the bathroom, because I'm not trying to get kicked out of this class or anything. I could have tried to find the controls for the hoop and adjust it so the ball would slip out, but that would take way too much time to figure out, and I'd probably end up breaking something anyways. So I took my shoe and just started launching it up there, trying to knock the volleyball loose. I'm keeping an eye on the door for when she comes back, but I just kept missing with my shoe. But finally, on my 6th try, I somehow hit the ball, and as the shoe knocks the ball loose, the door cracks open. So I catch my shoe on the way down and run back to my spot on the court right before the teacher walked fully in. It was like a movie. So from her perspective, she walked in and just saw the volleyball making these huge bounces in the middle of the court, but nobody was near it. So she looked really confused, but surprisingly didn't question it any further. It was a really fun time in that class though. Every day, basically just go and play sports and mess around. 10 out of 10 would recommend. So if anybody else is looking for an easy class to take their senior year that isn't boring, you already know what to do. So that's all for this story. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did enjoy it, remember to leave a like in the video and subscribe. We're on road to 10K subscribers, and I'll see you in the next one.